Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood, Chapter 2, Book Flamingo. Written by Anis Jung. The following is an excerpt from a book titled Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. This chapter is taken from her book Lost Spring Stories of Stolen Childhood. Here she analyzes grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. Very beautifully, she explains about the grinding poverty in two parts. The first part of the chapter describes the plight of the poor rag pickers of Simapuri near Delhi. And the second part describes the miserable conditions of bangle makers of Firozabad. We start with the chapter part first. In the part first, the main character is Sahib. He is a rag picker from Simapuri, located at the periphery or the outer edge of Delhi. He has simple dreams and he believes in promises made to him. And the narrator, Anis Jung, she is a social worker who empathizes with slum dwellers and honestly portrays their pitiable life. Here we start with the first part. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Why do you do this? I ask Sahib. I is the narrator, Anis Jung. So Anis Jung, she asked this boy, Sahib, who is a rag picker, why are you doing all this? Whom she meets every morning, scrounging, searching for gold in the garbage dumps. Dumps means heaps of garbage. He's searching in them something around his neighborhood. Sahib left his home long ago. Set amidst the green fields of Dhaka, his home is not even a distant memory. So they came from Dhaka, that is the capital of Bangladesh, and he left his home long ago. And his home is not even distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes, his mother tells him. That's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. So they were living a very happy life. They had a beautiful fields and home, but suddenly the storms swept away everything, destroyed, and that's why his mother tells him that they left Dhaka and they came to New Delhi looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. So Sahib replies to Anis Jung that he has nothing to do. Go to school, I said glibly. Glibly means fluently. So एकदम Anis Jung कहते go to school. Realizing immediately how hollow the advice must sound. एकदम से Anis Jung को realize होता है कि though she is giving advice, but it is so superficial, nothing can be done. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. So Sahib says that there is no school in his neighborhood. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. So she says, if I start a school, will you come in my school? Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? So after a few days, he embarrasses Anis Jung, the narrator, and asks, is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, embarrassed at having made a promise that was not meant. So she is embarrassed when the boy asks him, and she has nothing to say. She only says that it takes longer to build a school. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. But she says that everybody makes promises to him. There are at every corner of his life, there are people who make such bleak promises. In this dull world, everybody makes promises to him. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahib-e-Alam, he announces. So he says that his name is Sahib-e-Alam. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the Universe, he would have a hard time believing it. So she says that if he knew the meaning of his name, he will not believe that his name means Sahib-e-Alam. Alam means universe, Sahib means Lord, his name means Lord of the Universe. Unaware of what his name represents, He roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. So he's so unaware, he doesn't know the meaning of his name, and he roams the streets of Simapuri with his friends, barefoot. They have nothing to wear in their feet, and they appear like morning birds. सुबह सुबह वो आ जाते हैं and they disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each one of them. So the narrator says, in 1 month, she recognized each one of them by name. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I asked one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf, he answers simply. So the boy says, my mother did not bring them down from the shelf. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another. So another boy said, even if she brings them down from the shelf, he will throw them off. He will not like to wear the slippers. Who is wearing shoes that did not match? So that boy was wearing shoes that did not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. So when narrator commented on his different shoes that did not match, he did not say anything. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Such a grinding poverty. So the third one said that he wants shoes because he never owned a pair of shoes all his life. Just imagine the condition of these boys. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. Now, when Nis Jung, narrator, because she's a social worker, she travels a lot. She sees children walking barefoot, not only in the cities but on the village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. And when she asks the boys, when she asks the children why they are barefoot, they says that it is a tradition to stay barefoot. It is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. So she just realizes, okay, are they just giving an excuse to explain about their eternal, perpetual means eternal, long lasting state of poverty? They just given excuse. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple. So she remembers a story of a man from Udupi, that's a city. As a young boy, he would go to school, which was near the old temple, where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. So 30 years again, she got a chance to visit the temple, which has now been destroyed. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting. Panting means he came breathing very, very fast and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess has granted his prayer. So she remembered that boy who made a prayer. Let me never lose them. That means those shoes which he got. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys, like the son of the priest, now wore shoes. So now the children of priest, they also wear shoes. But many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. So she says that it is the fate. The children, these rag pickers, they are very unfortunate. They remain shoeless. The next part of this chapter will be in my next video. Thank you.